I would like to call to order the February 15th, 2024 TPA Governing Board meeting. If our staff could please read the roll so we can establish a quorum.
At this time, I am only asking those board members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. As a reminder, you can unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a TPA board representative. Steve Wilson,
Here.
Yvette Drucker. Here. Fran Nacklis. Angela Cruz is excused. Shelley Petrolia. Joelle Flores. Jim Koretsky.
Here.
Ronaldo Diaz. Joni Brinkman.
Here.
DeAndre Poole. Greg Wise.
Here.
Marcy Woodward. Sarah Baxter. Mac Bernard. Shirley Lanier. Fred Pinto.
Jeff Amara here for Fred Pinto. My gosh. Whoa.
Michael Napoleon.
Here.
Christy Fox. Joseph Paduzzi.
Here.
Maria Marino is excused. Chelsea Reed.
I am here and we have a quorum, and I do believe we have Commissioner Woodward on the way and Councilmember Nacklis also on the way. So we'll be sure to note them on the agenda when they arrive. We do not have anyone participating remotely today, Ruth?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go on with our invocation and pledge. So we have asked Councilmember Hamara to do our invocation today. And after the invocation, please join me for the pledge.
Good morning. Would you all please pray with me? Oh Lord, our Creator, as we gather today, we ask that you provide us with guidance and wisdom and bring us your presence. Let us know that you're here with us. Grant us the ability to listen with an open heart, to speak with respect, and to work towards the common good. May our discussions be fruitful, our decisions be just, and our actions be guided by compassion and understanding. Bless this gathering and all who are present. Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Ruth, do we have any modifications to our agenda today?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, great. So I'm seeking a motion to adopt our agenda. Wonderful. Was Mayor Weiss and Drucker. Thank you so much. We've got that. So we do allow public comments. So instructions on how to provide public comments are included in the agenda. Do we have any public comments as of yet?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite any board member comments on items not already on the agenda. We again don't have anyone participating remotely. Any of my board here have anything they want to mention? Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to let you know for March for Florida Bicycle Month, the city of Boca Raton is going to have a bike ride on El Rio Trail at 9 a.m. on March 9th with XPE. So we have that on our website and we're excited about that. Hopefully some of you can join us. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll be talking about our TPA bike ride as well. Lots of biking going on. I do have one thing for our board. You guys are used to getting emails from Melissa Murray. Melissa actually got married a little while back and has now changed her last name to Melissa Ebel. So if you see those, it's still our Melissa. We just, again, want to encourage her to keep reaching out to us. So you'll see lots of new emails with a new email address. Moving right along, I also want to welcome Commissioner Sarah Baxter to our TPA. We know that you're going to provide valuable and insightful information, and we're thrilled to have you on the board. So welcome. And I think that's about it. Let's move right along to the TPA executive report with our executive director, Valerie Nielsen.
Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. We haven't met since December. I wanted to mention and congratulate Mayor Reed and also Councilmember Drucker for their appointments to the National League of Cities Transportation and Infrastructure Services Committee. So congrats. Great to have representation from our board at the national level. Also wanted to remind everyone that our annual Transportation Alternatives program funding applications are due this Friday. We've been promoting this for some time, so I'm looking forward to having our local municipalities apply for that program. It's about $5 million available primarily for non-motorized facilities or on or off the system. So just a reminder for that. and that we're continuing to promote public participation, everyone's participation in our 2050, our Vision 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan update. This happens every 5 years. We're updating this plan and it'll be brought to the board for adoption later this year. So please continue to stay involved and promote participation in that process. We have several exciting events coming up that we encourage board participation. One is an Orlando site visit. Several of the executive committee board members are going, and we invite other board members to join us as well. To Orlando, we'll be riding Brightline, receiving a tour from Brightline of their station there, and then joining some elected officials and other leaders in Orlando and the Central Florida area to hear about their initiatives and what they're doing with premium transit, with transportation, experiencing autonomous vehicles at the BEEP headquarters, and also visiting a Sunrail station for transit-oriented development. So please, we sent an email earlier this week. If you're able to attend, please RSVP, let us know, and we look forward to your participation. Also on February 26th, it's a Monday from 9:30 to noon here at the TPA. We'll be hosting a roundtable inviting leaders from Broward and Miami-Dade County to give us an update on what they're doing with their mobility and transportation plans, including commuter rail extensions and also other plans that they have moving forward. So a couple of years ago, we had them come here and give us updates on what they were doing. So here's another opportunity and to see how we can collaborate with them as a region, moving those initiatives forward. Several of you are joining us for the Regional Safe Street Summit. This is a summit that's put on by the 3 MPOs in our Miami urbanized area. Next year, it'll be our turn to host. This year, Miami-Dade is hosting, so we're joining them. We're really excited about that. It'll be at the Miami Intercontinental Hotel. So it's a summit. It's about usually around 300, 400 people that go, but highlighting all the transportation safety initiatives happening in our region and trying to encourage more of that. Florida Bike Month, we'll have a presentation later this morning, but it is March and we are excited for that, encouraging all of our municipalities to pass proclamations to celebrate and promote safe bicycling. We have several resources, including a template for a proclamation on our website. And the TPA will be doing its annual ride on Friday, March 29th here at the TPA at 8 a.m. So we hope you will join us. One more event here. We have we're looking at doing a South Florida rail tour and site visit to experience Tri-Rail to the Miami International Airport, and then ride Metro Rail to downtown and then ride Brightline back to West Palm Beach. So if you haven't experienced this, we are putting on this tour and site visit to encourage folks to experience our rail system here in South Florida. It's going to be on April 12th. Dave Deck, our executive director of SFRTA, will be helping us lead that tour. So please save the date, register, and hope you can join us. We also sent an email out a little while ago to encourage participation in our MPOAC Weekend Institute training. This is for MPO board members across the state. There's 2 training opportunities happening, one in March, one in Tampa. So if you haven't participated in this in the past and you would like to, please let me know. We have a couple board members that have signed up, and this training does qualify board members to serve as officers in the future. And then just also wanted to highlight Palm Tran is doing a Let's Get on the Bus challenge. And maybe some of you have been contacted to be transit champions and encourage riding transit. That's happening March through May. And just finally, just a reminder that the U.S. Department of Transportation has created a website to help communities find and apply for grants on their Grant Navigator website. And if you're not already signed up, please sign up for our newsletter. It's twice a month to stay involved of all these activities and other resources. Thank you.
Okay, great. Do we have anyone who has any questions or comments regarding the director's report today? No? All right. Well, I personally want to thank our executive director and our staff for continuing to give us opportunities for peer exchanges, to get out there and see how other people are doing things in transportation so we can bring it back home. It's really a great opportunity for all of us to get together and collaborate, learn things together, and connect. So thank you so much for making that happen. And then I look forward to seeing who else is getting on the bus. That'll be it's actually a competition. So I'm kind of wondering who else on our board may be getting on the bus. We'll have to wait and see. Let's move along to our consent. Do we have any board members who want to remove anything from our consent agenda? All right, seeing none, I need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Weiss and Hamara. So all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion passes unanimously. We have one action item today, which is primarily housekeeping. We'll turn it over to Brian Ruscher, our Deputy Director of Multimodal, to present on this item. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Governing Board. Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of Multimodal, here to present item 2A, adoption of safety performance measures for the TPA. Get the presentation pulled up. Once again, there is an extensive agenda backup, which includes the performance measures for all of the performance measures that the TPA tracks, and the justification and backup is included in the agenda packet. This safety measure is specifically just for the area's safety metrics. We adopt these every February per the FDOT requirements to have these established by the end of February. Why do we track these performance measures? Well, in our long-range transportation plan, we have the 5 goals that are listed on the screen: preserve, safe, efficient, connected, and multimodal. These performance measurements have specific metrics which we track, and we work with the Department of Transportation and other roadway owners on how our roadway system is performing according to these goals. The safety measures that are before you today there are 5: the number of fatalities, the rate of fatalities measured by fatalities divided by million miles of vehicles traveled, safety, the number of serious injuries in that same rate, and then the combined number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. The history of this target setting goes back to 2018, where we, as the TPA, the Florida Department of Transportation, and the U.S. Department of Transportation have all set a goal of 0 serious injuries and fatalities locally, at the state, and at the national level. The reason that this is important is because we as an agency do not believe and have had the support of the governing board in the past to state that there should be no people that are severely harmed on our roadways, and no one that is killed on our roadways. On the screen shows the 2 previous 5-year averages for our fatalities and serious injuries as broken down in our safety performance metrics. As you can see, in both of the 2 5-year averages, there are increases in the 2013 to 2017 to the 2018 to 2022 average for fatalities. In addition to that, the fatality rate is continuing to climb. More positively, though, the serious injuries rate has declined, and the number of serious injuries has declined. Lastly, the combined number of pedestrians and bicyclists, fatalities, and serious injuries involving a motor vehicle has remained about the same, of about 205 between both 5-year averages per year. Our 2024 proposed target, of course, is 0, in line with Vision 0. On the screen, it provides a little bit more information in terms of trends for what we've seen for vehicle miles traveled and fatalities. For fatalities, they more or less have remained about the same. There was a slight dip after the recession. What the research shows is that dip after the recession largely dealt with road users who are a little bit more younger. They maybe drive a little bit more recklessly, and them not being on the road due to economic circumstances severely dipped the fatality rate. But as we are coming back into better economic times in the late 2010s and early 2020, the fatalities have climbed, as well as the vehicle miles traveled climbing as more people are on the road. That is also consistent with the fatalities that we see per capita over time back to 2006. These trends, as you can see, are very similar. So why the continued rise in fatalities? The top 5 metrics that we track for Palm Beach County that we've seen through the Strategic Highway Safety Plan that align with the Florida's emphasis areas, state of Florida's, are the ones that are bounded by the red boxes on the screen. Our lane departure crashes, where vehicles are exiting their travel lane and entering into another pathway of a vehicle, person, or object in the roadway, are the highest, along with the crashes at intersections. The 3 other important emphasis areas that we track are pedestrians and bicyclists, aging road users, and distracted driving. The only difference of the top 5 is that instead of aging road users for the state, we have impaired driving statewide as a metric. So locally, we have more aging road users. So our crash countermeasures probably need to be a little bit different than what the statewide approach would be. And this largely has to deal with roadway design. When we have designed our roadway capacity to be substantially large to address peak hour capacity, We do our best to make sure that there is no congestion. If you've been on the streets in downtown West Palm Beach this week, it might not have felt like that has been resolved, but what happens is these roadways are designed the exact same way in the off-peak hours. And so we have long, straight, flat, linear roads. And to a driver, that means that they can go as fast as they want. And what that results in is a severe number of crashes and fatalities that happen outside of the peak hour. When we have vehicles traveling at a high rate of speed over the speed limit, or even at the posted speed limit on these larger roadways, and they collide with someone in the roadway crossing the street, their chances of severity goes up with the higher speeds. So 9 out of 10 people survive at a 20-mile-per-hour speed crash, but only 1 out of 10 survives at a 40-mile-per-hour crash. So what are we doing about it? The Transportation Planning Agency is working with the state and the national government on a number of different strategies. The National Roadway Safety Strategy objectives include a series of metrics, and these largely align with the state. But for better or for worse, this is the safe systems approach is what it's called. Safe people, safe vehicles, safe roads, speeds, and post-crash care. These align very closely with what the state is working towards in terms of engineering, education, enforcement, and emergency response. But the state has included a series of I's: information intelligence, innovation, insight into communities, and investment in policies. So we track these metrics very closely. We work with the USDOT and the FHWA and FDOT on these measures and metrics, consistently meeting with FDOT weekly on a number of safety projects. More specifically, all of you are very well aware that the TPA consistently promotes Complete Streets, Vision Zero, provides grant support, and includes a number of different safety events and programs throughout our community. Most notably, Florida Bicycle Month is coming up. But we also work with your communities on ensuring that you have access to the right funding, the right tools that you need to go after various funding sources. We locally have had 13 municipalities adopt Vision Zero as a goal. 6 municipalities have used our Complete Streets design guidelines and policy template as a measure, many of which have received national acclaim from Smart Growth America for their policies. And additionally, we fund obviously Complete Streets and safety projects every year. Our Vision Zero action plan is seeing progress on multiple fronts. First and foremost, we have helped to shape legislation through information and sharing resources with partners who are working towards safety in our communities, most notably House Bill 317 and 258, Senate Bill 258 last year, which was signed into law by the governor, allowed the utilization of speed enforcement cameras in school zones. This is also a federal eligible grant for many different resources that are out there. So we're excited because speed cameras is a proven safety countermeasure to reduce the speed or to reduce speeding in school zones and also reduce severe injuries and fatalities in our school zones. So these are some of the policies that we track, and we help to support and move them along where we can. We have a speed management plan that it will be underway this fiscal year, which would look at our high injury network, try to understand how we can reduce the speeding that occurs on that roadway, and if that roadway is actually targeting the correct design speed. And lastly, we have 2 successful leading pedestrian intervals, which are being implemented at Atlantic Avenue and Homewood Boulevard and Southern Boulevard and Parker Avenue. Leading pedestrian intervals are another proven safety countermeasure, which, as I said before, these came from members of the public who had difficulty crossing these streets. We work with DOT to get a leading pedestrian interval established. This allows pedestrians to enter into the intersection before the light turns green, establish their presence in the crosswalk, and to get across the street in a safe manner. But we still need your help. The TPA is one agency, very small staff serving a 1.5 million person county. And we have 13 of our 19 municipalities that have adopted Vision Zero. We've got about 2.5 million awarded from Safe Streets and Roads for All, a federal grant, to the 9 agencies listed on the screen. One of our special districts, Palm Beach County, and the remaining 7 municipalities on the screen. But there is another safety grant that's coming up. We expect the notice of funding opportunity from FHWA to come out this month. We are going to be hosting at the TPA a Safe Streets and Roads for All roundtable with those who have received funds from FHWA and those who are interested in going after this grant. So we encourage you all to either attend yourselves or to participate with your staff at this roundtable. The roundtable will be held in person and virtually, but the best way to participate is in person because you don't capture everything in the discussion from the room online. So in summary, in line with the Florida Department of Transportation's statewide safety targets and the FHWA targets, the DPA is going to recommend remaining committed to Vision Zero, establishing a target of 0 fatalities, serious injuries, and would like to request a motion to adopt safety targets for this fiscal year.
Thank you so much, Brian. Do we have any comments online?
No, Madam Chair, and for the record, Fran Naklis, Shelley Petrolia, Ronaldo Diaz, and Joel Flores joined the meeting.
All right, thank you so much, Ruth. All right, so how about the board? I see 2 cards. I saw Commissioner Weiss and then Mayor Koretsky.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. Excellent presentation. I was wondering at this time, is there any ability to track the electric scooters and bikes and so forth? I see a lot of really outrageous behavior by those folks, and is there a way to differentiate them in the reports?
We publish a quarterly crash report that involves pedestrian and bicyclist serious injuries and fatalities. The national safety reporting standards for crashes does not totally capture all of the micromobility devices that are out there yet. So we are tracking what's happening with the documentation for traffic citations and crash reporting that is published by the National Department of Transportation. I forget which specific agency has authority over it, but they are going through an effort now to redo crash coding, which will enable us to sort out those differently in time. Once that's adopted, we'll be able to show those metrics differently in our reporting.
Do you know if there's anything we need to do, I mean, to work with our congressional folks to make this happen faster?
At the moment, I'm not sure if additional efforts are necessary from the governing board. We will look into it and see what the status is and what the expected schedule of adoption will be, and we'll see if we can provide an update to you directly after.
And then last question is, how are golf carts now that are all over the place being tracked?
So it depends on the type of vehicle. So there's really 2 different types of golf carts out there that persist on our roadways. One is obviously the golf cart that you kind of see on a golf course. It's a very low speed vehicle. It's 12 miles per hour. You don't typically see them on roadways with very few exceptions. And then there is the low speed vehicles, which they encompass a wide variety of vehicles, but generally they have to be registered as a motor vehicle. They have to have seat belts, they have to have turn signals, and they have a number of different other types of safety measures that basically allow them to operate on the roads less than 35 miles per hour. We haven't tracked those as closely, and it would require, again, a look at the closer look at the coding of how those crashes are happening if it is a low speed vehicle. But we can look into it and see if the current data would allow us to separate them out in a meaningful way. We haven't seen a huge trajectory in terms of those types of crashes, but it is a trend that we're watching. And the state, I believe, is starting to track it as well. It's not just our area, but locations that are similar in nature. The Villages, the Gulf Coast, very popular tourism destinations have this similar type of issue arising. So we're tracking it statewide and locally as best we can. And we'll look into the data, see if we can parse out more information.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Weiss. We've got Mayor Koretsky and then Councilmember Hamara.
I just want to take the opportunity to share a perspective. First of all, I really appreciate the fact that the TPA, has embraced Vision Zero and does this on an annual basis. I think it's pretty productive. And I just thought I'd share as a member of the board, because I think each one of us will never get to Vision Zero if we don't take this and apply it at our local government level with the same level of urgency. That's the only way the numbers are going to move. So we have a process where annually we discuss this at a town council level. We bring in our police or engineering departments. So we bring in those that can make road improvements to infrastructure. And those that are out there seeing where the accidents are and public, driver and pedestrian bicyclist behaviors. That proves to be, we also look at how we're doing on level of service. So we just recently had one, our annual one, and it really is fruitful. It wouldn't be fruitful at this level because it's too large, but when you're looking at, like, let's say a municipality, number one, we saw that our accidents were going up, but quickly we saw, or I should say, on some roads, we have US 1 bridge that's down and there's a detour route, and the FDOT did a phenomenal job readying that detour route. However, traffic's higher, accidents are going up. It was a significant increase. So, we're anxious for the bridge to, so I point that out, that number one, a lesson learned, if you have congestion due to detour routes, you're likely going to have accidents go up. That's a fact. Secondly, we always look very closely and agonize about pedestrian and bicycle, accidents. So, the practice that we have here, I look, and if I see something in Jupiter, I feel really bad about it, where if it shows up on the TPA's plan here. So we took to heart that in this last session, I'd been advocating, and shout out to the county and the gardens, because they've had more work on that I've observed on pedestrian crossings. So I had made that as an item I've been advocating for a couple of years, and in my mind, we were going too slow. So we had what came up to us, we were going to be proceeding with 3 pedestrian crossings improvements. And I had asked staff, give me a list of all of them and prioritize. We had 10. Basically the council that on from the dais agreed to just up the budget on the spot. We got to do all 10. It really doesn't cost that much for pedestrian crossings improvements. It was about 50 grand a piece. I know that in some municipalities, maybe that's a lot of money, but in the end, we're going to feel a lot better when we finally kind of catch up and have done those pedestrian crossings, right? And, we're convinced they're going to make a difference, and we view it as just a start. But when we talked about that, there was some lively public input about it, right? And the public really wants us to be moving quicker on that. So I really just wanted to kind of share that, because that's the way we do funding here, it just takes a long time. And it's the process. And quite frankly, what we're doing could have applied for grants, but we didn't want to wait, So I just wanted to emphasize that. And then lastly, I ditto on the electric bikes and stuff. We're all concerned that the electric bikes, for example, are growing to become a greater public risk with the behaviors we're seeing on them. They're going a lot faster. And we continue to have dialogues about that, but I think that issue, and then perhaps golf courts, really needs to be somehow addressed. Again, it's predictable. We're going to have more accidents and fatalities with the craziness of the much faster electric bikes.
And I have to provide kudos to the town of Jupiter for also including Vision Zero in their comprehensive plan and putting that through the entire process that you'll go through for development review, your capital improvements plan. I think that's really great work on behalf of your town staff. So I have to compliment your team for that. Similar to what you had said, I also wanted to give compliments to the Department of Transportation. They do have some safety programs where if there is enough benefit in terms of, actual safety trade-offs for providing these improvements, there are new programs available through the DOT, specifically the local road safety program, where if the benefit is good enough, they will actually find a way to accelerate that project as best they can in the work program rather than going through a typical 3 or 5 year funding process. So duly noted, and thank you for the comment.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Mayor Koretsky. We'll move along to Councilmember Hamara and then Mayor Petrolia.
Okay, thank you, Brian, for that presentation. So 13 of 39 have adopted a Vision Zero, right?
That
that
is correct. And
okay?
9 have received Safe Streets and Roads for All. Receive Safe Streets and Roads for All grant money to develop
Okay.
an action plan. around
Right.
Vision
So
Zero.
you're going right where I wanted you to go, which is, so could you do a kind of a review of some of the greatest benefits of actually doing the adoption of this?
Sure. So I'm going to point to the city of West Palm Beach. They actually were spotlighted in the FHWA briefs that I'll share with the governing board in the email afterwards. But they saw a substantial reduction in crashes for roadways from that dealt with speeding and pedestrian and bicycle. So that's a really good resource. But I can also point to municipalities, large and small, the city of New York. There was a really great article in Route 50, which is a transportation oriented news resource that showed that between 2014 and this year, New York City has basically halted the growth of their serious injuries and fatalities for pedestrians and bicyclists. Hoboken, New Jersey has also not had a pedestrian related fatality in about 6 years. So it's another major metropolitan area. We heard about that last year at the Safe Streets Summit. So we're very encouraged by some of the progress that's been made domestically by Vision Zero, but we also know that it requires a very good look at where our crashes are occurring. If a large number of crashes are occurring on a very small percentage of our roads, those are the roads we need to be thinking about and working on.
It's interesting because the conversations I've had oftentimes go to, well, we're already doing what we need to do. Of course, if that were true, we wouldn't see increases in fatalities, but then you got to localize it and see whether or not there may be some validity to a statement like that. But it's
And work with your partners. All of our jurisdictions share roadways with others who own them. So if you have a Department of Transportation road or a county road or a local road that is in your jurisdiction that, is problematic, and you need to work with those partners for a plethora of reasons, whether it be signals, whether it be interchanges that are going through your communities. These require coordination, especially at the hotspots where there is a lot of.
And those are very obvious. The one other thing that I wanted to ask about was LPI. Now, I might have dozed off, but I never remember hearing about LPI before. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So LPI is referred to as a leading pedestrian interval. That is where instead of the pedestrian entering the intersection with the green, and the red lights will be held for all motor vehicles. And before the light turns green, let's say for northbound vehicles, the pedestrian signal will activate. And that allows the pedestrian to enter the intersection before motor vehicles enter the intersection. That establishes their presence ahead of things like turning vehicles, which is where we see a lot of conflicts for pedestrians and bicyclists. It gets them out into the intersection and provides them visibility. There are some very successful leading pedestrian intervals already in Palm Beach County. I believe Clematis Street has a few of them. More notable is Atlantic Avenue and Ocean Boulevard has a very prominent leading pedestrian interval because you have a high number of pedestrian activity. And that's very successful in getting people into the intersection without, conflicts of turning vehicles and vehicle movements going through at the same time. So leading pedestrian intervals we'll provide a fact sheet about the crash countermeasures and the effectiveness of leading pedestrian intervals from FHWA in addition to the West Palm Beach highlight.
That'd be helpful. Royal Palm Beach Boulevard and Okeechobee, scary.
We will make that recommendation to our partners at DOT.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Councilmember Hamara. We'll move on to Mayor Petrolia and then to Commissioner Diaz.
My question was a little different. I am the owner of a newer car after 16 years of driving just one vehicle. And lots of bells and whistles. In fact, I'm not able to pull into something. I can't hit things, which is great. My husband loves that feature especially. So I'm wondering, have the smart cars and those features helped with impacts and vehicle, to pedestrian, or does the car not necessarily see those? I would think that it would help, just from my experience. Limited.
First, congratulations on the newer car. And secondly, absolutely. So where we see, there's two different trends in vehicles that we're seeing. One, vehicles have gotten substantially larger over time. If you look at like a BMW 3 Series, the sedan's gotten 6 inches wider and the front grille has gotten much higher. So the impact force is higher on a person, meaning their organs can be more exposed to force and trauma. The trade-off that we have seen with the larger vehicles is safety sensors, automatic braking, detection, LiDAR systems. I believe the Volvo this is my dream car. So the Volvo XC90 hasn't had a pedestrian fatality as in that motor vehicle. So the new safety features that we're seeing from vehicles has helped to contribute to that decline of motorists on motorist fatalities. There's still some questions around how that's helping pedestrians and bicyclists because many of the roads are being, it really does have to do a lot with design. But generally speaking, vehicle safety has dramatically improved through sensors and that's more common and frequently. There, we tend to follow Europe with some of what they've been doing, but for the most part, that sensor stuff absolutely helped. Thank you.
All right, great questions. Moving along to Commissioner Diaz and then back. Oh, no. Okay, just Commissioner Diaz.
So maybe the opposite of the high-tech cars are the golf carts and LSVs. And, they often have primitive brakes and are the bare minimum, if you will. And so, and I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but at least in Lake Worth, we have a lot of them. And it's just a growing number of these things, especially the LSVs. And I'm really happy to hear that the state is looking into the data and collecting it. So my question is there also like an effort on enforcement? Because I can't speak for any other community that has these things in there, but at least in ours, it seems like the golf cart culture is really tied to drinking, like to put it bluntly. And it seems to be like a lot of people who are driving these vehicles seem to kind of push the boundaries on whether it's acceptable to operate them while impaired. And so I wonder, is the state making an effort? I know often asking law enforcement to take on DUI enforcement is pretty challenging because of the limitations in court and how difficult it can be. But is there going to be like a coordinated effort of enforcement throughout the state? Is there like going to be, for example, like money available, kind of like how we do with rail safety?
Yes, absolutely. So there is a grant program through, I believe it's the Department of Transportation or Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles that's available to police departments that focuses on the statewide emphasis areas. So impaired driving is a statewide emphasis area. It's an eligible expense. So police can go after I believe it's a reimbursement program and there are some strings attached. So in my experience in working with law enforcement in the past, they don't always go after those funds for the specific emphasis areas because it requires things like, oh, we require an email signature if we gave someone, information and guidance on safely crossing the street. And for a police officer, that's just too much paperwork. They're not going to. So there are targeted enforcement campaign dollars that are available out there. We can provide a resource to you all to make sure that we share that information with the caveat that knowing that not every police department values those grant dollars just because of the back end, the work that goes into it. But we'll still share the resource just for information's sake.
All right, Brian, thank you. I don't see any other cards. Oh, I have a card. Okay. Commissioner Fox.
Sorry. Thank you so much for the presentation. I was thinking a lot during your presentation. I remember when the Hoboken report came out a couple years ago about how they had managed to have 0 fatalities in 4 years or something at that point when it first came out. And I think they talked a lot about the fact that Hoboken is a very walkable and dense area. So it's not there's no rural parts of Hoboken. It's a city right near New York. And so they talked about the pedestrian issues that you mentioned and the ways that they were keeping it safer are much different than in rural neighborhoods and, areas where there's major highways and things. They don't have that in Hoboken. So it's sort of not really apples to apples with many of our municipalities here. But I did want to mention, I was contacted recently by someone from Smart Growth America. I went through the program last year for Complete Streets and they were asking if I could help them. They're working with one of the senators it's called the Building Safer Streets Act. And they're hoping to change the design standards at a federal level and also to be able to help more with the rural needs. And so that, smaller cities and areas that maybe aren't as progressive as a major city in terms of, talking about Vision Zero and having the finances to actually implement changes that they're hoping to be able to impact these smaller communities and help them in a different way than they have before on a federal level. So I did want to mention that, and maybe I can send you the information in case you can share it with others. Or if anyone else wants to know, because I know that they're hoping to have a big impact in Florida and having our senators and representatives get on board, because Florida is always at the top of the list of pedestrian deaths. So I just wanted to mention that. But thank you so much for bringing this to us, and I appreciate the presentation.
Certainly, well, look for that information. Thank you. Commissioner
All right.
Fox.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Drucker, you're recognized.
Thank you. So thank you for that information, Commissioner Fox, because as we heard earlier, Mayor Reed and I have been appointed to National League of Cities, and part of the meeting that we had, I believe it was like 2 weeks ago, is that our goal, or the goal of the National League of Cities Transportation Committee, is to advocate for policy, for reform policy around transportation. So next, and I believe it's next week, we have a meeting around our policies. So I would be curious to have that information, if you could send it to Ms. Nielsen. And then come in March, our first meeting in person in Washington, DC will be held with all the different partners and committee members throughout the United States. So I would love to have all that information in preparation for next week's meeting, and then in preparation for the meeting that I will be attending in mid-March. So thank you for bringing that up.
Excellent. It's great to hear about our local Palm Beach County representatives doing something in DC for transportation. Any other cards? All right, before we close out, do we have any public comment?
No, Madam Chair, and for the record, DeAndre Poole joined the meeting.
All right, thank you so much. So Valerie, I know we have our April 4th meeting where we're going to learn a lot more about grants. Is there anything that you want to share about grants between now and then for anyone who's considering it for the county, for municipalities?
Sure. And thank you, Brian, for your presentation, and everyone for your comments. Great discussion. Wanted to mention, yes, our grants take a long time, but also just, again, a reminder that the Transportation Alternatives Grant deadline is this Friday. The funding for that is quicker than normal. So it's design is year 1 and funding is and construction year 3. So that is an opportunity for, as Mayor Koretsky mentioned, kind of a little bit of a shorter turnaround improvements. We've had great success with that. In regards to Safe Streets and Roads for All grants, there's 2 types of grants. There's planning grants, which is, if we can share the slide real quick again, with the list of the municipalities. There's also implementation grants. So we've had, I believe, was it 13 on the screen, the slide? Anyways, 13, how many?
9 have adopted or received funding from Safe Streets and Roads for All. 13 have an adopted Vision Zero goal.
Okay, so 13 local municipalities have committed to Vision Zero with a resolution or some sort of policy saying that their goal is 0 of our 39, and 9 of the municipalities have applied and received Safe Streets for All grants for planning. This is to do a Vision Zero action plan. After you receive that round, you can also apply for implementation funds for construction. So nationally, this is year 2 of awards. So year 1, there was about, in total, there's been over close to 900 municipalities that have applied and received about $800 million a year in these grants. So we really want to encourage our municipalities. Would be great to see all 39 of them apply and help us on this charge. And as we mentioned, we have a workshop for staff to share best practices, to share what they're doing so that we can help and encourage more municipalities to apply for these grants. It's a really special and great opportunity to get this done. So hope to see more of you on this list in this next round.
Okay, great. Anything else, Brian?
No, I just want to make sure we get a motion in a second.
Yeah, we sure will. Absolutely. Any more cards, any more questions? All right, let's go to vote. I think this is going to be a roll call vote.
No.
No, it doesn't have to be. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Who's the motion second? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I need a motion in a second. I apologize. Okay.
Motion to
so
approve.
Caglione
No.
and Baxter. All right, and then we'll vote again. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to our information items. So we're going to invite Nathan George, our long-range transportation coordinator, to present on this item.
Sorry.
I know, I was just about to choke.
Thanks, Chair Reed, and good morning, everybody. All right, we're here to talk today about the 2045 LRTP. I promise you, we're still working on the 2050 plan, but this is a really important part of the process that is informing that update. So walk you through the importance of updating the 2045 plan again. This is first part presentation will be coming back next month. So today is informational only. So first, to highlight for you, this is LRTP Amendment number 3 proposed. The LRTP is our 25-year document that outlines our investments in the region. We update it every 5 years. That's a 2050 plan that we're working on to adopt in December. And then we go through these periodic amendments or modifications just to incorporate updates. Today's amendment is to incorporate local projects. We most recently updated the TIP and STIP. So for all of you who were here last year through that process, that was to make sure we're financially consistent with those near-term funding documents. And then this process is to incorporate projects that don't have that funding. And so what I want to highlight for you the importance of getting these projects into our plan before we get into the project specifically. This is a direct excerpt that comes out of the Notice of Funding Opportunity for the RAISE Grant Program. So you might be saying, why do I need to have my locally funded projects in your TPA 25-year long-range document? The federal government looks at our MPO plan for consistency. They want to see, is your planned improvement in our MPO plan before they're going to grant those awards. If you don't have it in the plan, this text says you need to be working with the MPO to get your project into that plan. So it demonstrates that you have that support from TPA as you're pursuing those grant opportunities. And so those local projects, what we call the local prioritization in this document, those are the current projects that you have in your CIP or whatever financial document you have that addresses your local funding needs. They do not currently have state or federal funding attributed to them, so they're just coming out of your local dollars. And so I'll walk you through the projects that have been submitted thus far. We reached out to the same folks we were working with on the call for projects, notified everybody on our technical advisory committee, and we received 4 submissions. 3 of those are located here in the downtown West Palm Beach area. We had another one in Delray, so I'll give you a little more specific detail on the 4 projects that were submitted. The key point that I want to make sure everybody understands here is we are going through a full public process and making sure we go through the full amendment process. So we want to make sure that if anything was missed, now's the time to let us know. So the 4 projects that were submitted, the first 2 come out of our local government prioritization table. These were 2 new submissions. The first is the Fern Street Extension Project. So this is a project that would complete the roadway across the Tri-Rail tracks and provide a complete connection between Australia Avenue and Tamarind Avenue. It's a really critical connection in downtown. It provides a reliever to Okeechobee. It's a northern parallel to Okeechobee Boulevard. Another highlight that I do want to point out is that these projects have committed funding amounts that you see in the table. A project that doesn't have committed funding is not a local project yet. It's a desire or a need. So these projects that we're bringing to you do have committed funding, whether that's current or if it's in a future near-term year. Second project that we're including is a project that recently received a very exciting RAISE Grant Award. So we're incorporating that for consistency, just to make sure that it's shown and reflected in our document. We do support that. So that's the West Palm Beach on the Rise, which is the Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard area neighborhood improvements. I've listed them out here. I'm not going to walk through all of that. There's basically a number of very community-focused safety enhancements, accessibility and livability enhancements in those neighborhoods. So that's a project that we're proposing to incorporate, but it's already received funding. And then there are 2 projects that are reflected in our operations and maintenance. So these are more of the operations funds. We reflect them in this table in the 2045 plan. My hope is that we'll be a little bit more clear on what's a capital project versus what's just a maintenance need. So these are pretty substantial bridge projects. So the first is the George Bush Boulevard over the Intercoastal Waterway, or ICWW. It's a bridge replacement project that's proposed. The county's currently working on design of that project, and we're going to include that or incorporate that. The second project that you see, Palm Beach Lakes crossing the Florida East Coast Rail, or FEC, that's a rehabilitation project that was included in the 2045. So we're proposing it in this amendment strictly to update the financial and project-based information. So those are the four projects that we have received thus far that we're bringing to the board and the committees. So you all are aware of that proposed amendment process. We did post this for our required 45-day review period. So we go through that process when we do amendments. And then at the completion of that process will be just before the March 21st board meeting. So we'll be bringing back as an action item to March committees and then the board on the 21st to adopt this proposed amendment. That concludes the presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, great. Thanks, Nathan. We have a card up for Mayor Koretsky. You're recognized.
2 items. I don't want to miss the opportunity to get these items, and I'll communicate with you afterwards, but for the record, because what you're presenting here is items that, if I understood correctly, have local government prioritization. As you're aware of, there's 2 projects I don't see on here. One that the town is trying to fund on its own to be a local road. It was a county road. It was given back to us. This would be Island Way Southern Extension. It's a significant project that is intended to significantly help congestion on Indian Town Road. There was some, it was in the, as I understand it, in the roadway network that was used in the last long-term plan update. But I remember having to go back to the previous executive director to kind of confirm, because there was a lot of confusion about that. So I want to make sure not only that road is in there, but it's also, in the analysis that's being done. I've been trying to push that road for about 10 years. Secondly, we have, there has been a TPA priority project that finally got funded, if you remember, 6 months back, and FDOT had a recommendation in a study we saw to make an improvement on Indian Town Road from Central Boulevard to Center Street. It's not funded yet, but what got funded was the study. But they already did an analysis. I got 100 and some odd page report. They said that's the most congested roadway in the county. I want that on the list. So I'll follow back up and officially, but I wanted to get that on the record here. Certainly it's on FDOT's list. I wouldn't think then it'd have to be our priority, but I'm just emphasizing it. It is a big priority to us. What we normally put on local government prioritization is roads that we fund, or no, we have certainty on funding. So this is the one that there is no certainty of funding, and yet FDOT themselves has indicated it's a significant improvement that was justified by their cost benefit analysis. I'd like to make sure that gets into this long-term plan round.
If I may. So on the first project that you mentioned, I will give a nod to the 2050 plan update that we're working on currently. So we're getting ready to go back out to everybody who responded to our call for projects, giving them feedback on, here's a preliminary assessment of the information we got. For communities that we didn't receive submissions from, we're going to identify for you the projects that were proposed in your jurisdiction, likely from FDOT or the county. And then that will be a trigger to notify us if you didn't respond, please tell us these kinds of projects. For the Island Way specifically, if it's a project that you're currently working on, we want to make sure that there's funding because the intent of this update, just to make it clear for everybody, is that these are projects that we're incorporating because your agency or your municipality plans to pursue a discretionary grant in this year, 2024. If you want to get a discretionary grant 25 or later, you should be talking to us through the 2050 process. We can get those projects incorporated into the 2050 plan. How they actually, look in the plan may vary. We have to work through that process, and we want to make sure that those projects get included. On the second project that you mentioned, so the Indian Town Road, which is in our current plan, which is the cost feasible program, all of those projects remain unchanged with this proposed amendment. They're going to stay exactly as they are, and then we'll be discussing, potential reprioritization in the 2050 process. If priorities need to be elevated or if something's prioritized that needs to be deprioritized, but we will be talking about that portion of the plan in the 2050 process, and it's not something that we would need to reflect on here because it's still in the plan. Nothing that we're proposing here today would change that.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't believe the segment I'm talking about is in the cost feasible plan. I'd be thrilled to learn that it was.
Okay, I'll look forward to the follow-up.
So we can get together afterwards.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Mayor Kretzky? You good? All right. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for highlighting those West Palm Beach projects. The Fern Street crossing has been something in the works for many years, and for anyone who drove here to downtown West Palm today, it will be a benefit for everyone when we have an additional way to get east and west and be able to come straight downtown from Australian. So thank you for highlighting that. And then I also just wanted to say, because I see Wendeng in front of us, and you mentioned the West Palm Beach on the Rise, that is a raise grant that we received for about $8 million. I think it was the biggest grant in the state of Florida for working on the Roosevelt Estates neighborhood, mostly a lot of our underserved neighborhoods that have 60 or 70-year-old roads. And we submitted a raise grant. We didn't get it. And Wen looked at it and said, I know I can get it for you. So we brought her on board, and she was able to bring in that for funding for us. And so I just wanted to give her a huge shout out since she's here, in case any other municipalities or the county is looking for her services as well. Thank you.
I think we probably need to vote on whether or not Wen's available. I'm just teasing. Any other cards? All right. I do have one quick question, and it's not about 2045. It's about 2050. You did a call for projects. How is it looking? How much response did you get? I'm not pointing fingers at anyone who maybe didn't submit. I'm just curious as to what the pulse is on that.
Okay, so 2050 plan, we received about 650 submissions. We've been going through since we closed that in December, cleaning up the data, getting everything recorded, and eliminating a lot of redundancy that we see in projects that are currently in the funding plan that were resubmitted. So we received responses from 12 agencies or municipalities. And our approach to ensure that everybody is reached and consulted throughout this process is that once we get all of that data cleaned up, we're almost at that point. We're going to share with everybody who submitted, here's what you submitted and our feedback, or, here's how it's been recorded, make sure we've reflected everything appropriately. Here's everything that was submitted in your jurisdiction that you did not submit. And that's also going to hit the folks who did not submit. So that will be a second opportunity to reach out to everybody who did not have an opportunity to respond and say, here's what we received on your behalf, or if nothing was received, we'll at least have that correspondence. Did we miss anything? Kind of the same message that we have for this 2045. We want to continue that process of talking about what are the needs in your region, what might we need to incorporate into our needs plan, even if it's not something that we could fund. We need to make sure that we're continuing to have that process, that collaborative process into the summer. Once we get to a certain point, we can't incorporate anything new in terms of funding, but we can continue to incorporate those projects in the process. We're also developing the 2050 plan to be more of a living document. So it will allow us to incorporate ideas and needs as we go through the annual updates process. That's what's really exciting about the fact that we have updated the 2045. Now, this is our second time since I started in this role. So we really have the opportunity through that process to make this more of a living document, and we can make those updates annually. Even if we can't fund a project, we can at least make sure it's reflected in our plans. And then in 5 years, we'll be in a much better spot to make the update for the 2055 plan.
No, that's really exciting. I have a feeling that this 2050 is going to be one of the best that we've ever put together. And on behalf of the 21 elected officials sitting up here, we will all help to make sure that we collaborate together for the betterment of our community to make sure that we get all of this on there for you. And thank you for all your hard work to make this happen and for coming here just to work on it. So we really appreciate it, Nathan. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, we're going to move along. We have an update on Florida Bicycle Month. So we're going to invite Valentina Facuse, our pedestrian and bicycle coordinator, to present on this item. Hello.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Valentina Facuse. I'm the pedestrian bicycle coordinator here for the Palm Beach TPA. And on a very exciting note, I will be providing you all a presentation on some of the activities and events that we will be hosting here for Florida Bicycle Month, as well as some ways of how you can all get involved. So to serve as a quick refresher to you all, Florida Bicycle Month is really an opportunity to highlight some of the best practices when it comes to designing for protected bicycle facilities and also educating the public for the many benefits for bicycling and the bicycle state laws. So here are 4 different ways of how you can get involved. The first one would be by adopting a proclamation. The TPA encourages all 39 municipalities to adopt a proclamation for Florida Bicycle Month every single month, or every single year, excuse me. We also are hosting several events, which I'll be going over here in a little bit. And then we also encourage all 39 municipalities and the county and even members of the public to host their own bicycle event, whether that's a bicycle ride within your own jurisdiction or your own bicycle safety event. So on the screen before you, you'll see all of the agencies that have adopted a proclamation for Florida Bicycle Month last year. That's a total of 18 agencies. So for this year, our goal is to have at the very least 20 proclamations, 20 adopted proclamations. So please spread the word so that we can reach our goal. In the agenda packet that you all received today, we actually do have a template that you can use for this proclamation. So we highly encourage everyone to adopt this proclamation. So on the screen before you, you'll see some bicycle month activities that were hosted in the past, but also for this year. As Councilmember Drucker noted, the city of Boca Raton will be hosting a bicycle ride throughout the El Rio Trail. Then we've also heard from the town of Lake Park. They will also be hosting some events. So if you know that your municipality or jurisdiction will be hosting any Florida Bicycle Month events, please feel free to let us know so that we can spread the word and encourage others to participate. So here on the screen, I have all of the Florida Bicycle Month events that we will be hosting, the TPA will be hosting. The first one is Tuesday, March 12th, which will be a presentation that I'll be doing on safe bicycling to educate the public on the benefits of bicycling, the bicycle state laws, and some resources that we have here at the TPA when it comes to safe bicycling. Then the next day, Wednesday, March 13th at 2:45 p.m., the TPA is collaborating with Lake Worth CRA and Safe Kids Palm Beach County to host a bicycle safety event. And this is really to target the students that go to the Lake Worth Community High School and provide them with some free helmets and bicycle safety materials. And then towards the end of March, the TPA will be hosting its annual Florida Bicycle Month bicycle ride. And this is in collaboration with the city of West Palm Beach. We do not have the details for that ride yet, but stay tuned. And for now, you can save the date. It's going to be March 29th at 8 in the morning. And that concludes my presentation. I can take any questions at this time.
All right, do we have any public comment, Ruth?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, do I see any cards? Oh, here we go, Commissioner Fox.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I just wanted to mention West Palm Beach is planning a nighttime bike ride on March 6th, Wednesday, March 6th. And it is a get out and ride event and possibly in conjunction with Wine Wednesday as well. I'll let you know more details when we have them.
Right, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Valentina. And thanks for everything. We're excited about March.
Thank you.
All right, great. Moving right along, do we have any partner agencies that would like to present today?
Not at this time.
All right, lovely. And that's it for that then. I do have a few administrative items. These items were presented as information to our board. We do not have a staff presentation on these unless anyone would like them to request that we do so. Do we have any public comments on our administrative items, Ruth?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, does anyone need any information or presentations on our information? Yes, sir, Mayor Wilson. I think your mic.
If it's possible that at the next meeting, Madam Chair, to our CEO, that we can have an update on State Road 80 lighting, would that be possible?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're just gonna make a note, one moment. All right. Anything else about our administrative items or otherwise? Okay, so I do want to just take a moment, if you'll indulge me, to welcome, we have two new chairs on our advisory committees. We have Natalie Crowley is our new chair for VSAC and James Garvin for our Citizens Advisory, and all of our other chairs are continuing on. So we want to thank them for their service. We know it is a volunteer role and we appreciate their time. We don't have anything else to comment on. Anyone have any cards, anything else they want to say before we close out? Been done early today? All right, so I'll see you guys on the 20th at the Orlando site visit, the 26th at the Transportation Roundtable, the 29th at the State Safe Street Summit. And then maybe the next day, some of us will be at the Cognizant Classic of the Palm Beaches, which is countywide this year. So we're pretty excited about that. Our next meeting will be on March 21st. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.